concerning that. I'm not inquiring what that may be, because that's between the two of you. Have you made a decision as to what you wish to do with regard to whether you wish to testify or not to testify? Very well, sir. And you understand you have the right to testify, but it's also your right not to testify. Are you comfortable with your decision, sir? And have you consumed any alcohol or taken anything, any type of medication in the last 24 hours? And do you know of anything that's affecting your judgment or ability to make a decision of this nature? And you're satisfied with the manner in which your attorney has advised you concerning this issue? Very well. Let the record reflect that I've discussed with Mr. Moore his right to testify and not to testify. I find he's demonstrated no problems in comprehending, been very responsive, and I appreciate that. He's indicated he's satisfied with his attorney, and I find that his decision not to testify is one that he makes knowingly, voluntarily, intelligently, and without any coercion or threat. And thank you so much, Mr. Moore. You may be seated. Now, question next comes, does the defendant wish to present any additional testimony for the, by any witnesses for the jury? Very well. All right. That being said, then my intent would be to move into closing arguments.
Your Honor, if I may?
Yeah.
When I defense rest, I need to renew my motion.
Oh, I know, and I'll do that. I'm going to send them out to accomplish that. We'll protect the record on that. I'm just saying, but I'm not going 5 or 10 minutes. We're ready, the state's ready to go in that regard. I figured with the seasoned lawyers that I'm dealing with, whom I'm dealing, I kind of figured y'all had that plan as well. All right, let's bring in our jury and we'll get to the next step. Computer. That's all right. When we recess. I know. Cool. Bless you. Maybe. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You had a good lunch. We're ready to continue. And as you recall, when we took our lunch recess, the state had rest. As you'll remember when we started, I mentioned to you in my opening remarks that the only party that had a burden of proof for this process was the state of South Carolina. The defendant had no burden of proof. But that not having been said, this defendant still has the right to choose to present any additional testimony they wish to present for your consideration. So at this point, we've reached that point. Trust load, does the defendant wish to present any additional testimony or evidence?
Your Honor, defense rest.
Very well. Ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude the evidence portion then of this process. There still remains, however, two very important parts. Once, obviously, the attorneys have their second opportunity to speak to you in this matter. And in the closing argument, they will discuss the evidence and discuss reasonable inferences that you may draw from that evidence. And then following that, of course, I will give you the law. All of that being said, to say this. while you're not hearing any more evidence in any of these last two parts, it still would be improper for you to individually and collectively begin your deliberations. So keep that open mind throughout this entire remaining portion. And as I mentioned, the last instruction I'll give to you is when you may commence your deliberations. So thank you. There are a couple of matters that I have to take up now out of your presence. We'll be with you as quickly as thank you so much. May retire to you, Chair. Any motions of the state?
No, sir.
From the defendant?
Your defense renews its motion to direct and all other motions made in the case at this time.
Thank you very much. And of course, my previous rulings, I stand by those in my ruling on directed verdict, which we just discussed and I articulated. And during the lunch break, I had an opportunity to review the Arnold case, which you raised, and I understand the significance of it, and certainly don't differ with your conclusion. There are a couple of distinctions, but one of the ones, it seems to me, and of course, the dissent in that case was interesting because they pointed out some evidence that the majority didn't seem to think was important. And as I recall from reading it quickly, that there was a fingerprint on a cup, and that was about it, that was found at the scene. They said there was no evidence to put the person, the defendant, anywhere near the scene. And in this case, and I understand there's an argument that it's not Mr. Moorer, who knows who it is, but in the light most favorable to the state, which I believe requires me to accept that testimony as being accurate, that's a distinction I would note as well, and to add and further support my decision not to grant the directed verdict. And so I therefore would respectfully deny that motion. I'm going to charge kidnapping. Any other specific request to charge?
No, sir, yeah.
Anything?
Other than your routine and circumstantial evidence.
I'm going to charge the circumstantial evidence, and I'll charge that part that I read in my, that they have to be wholly consistent with each other and lead to that logical conclusion.
And I did remember early in the trial, before the trial, you mentioned that the reason that charge was given is a permanent defense line.
I do. I use that charge, absolutely. But I do use this in my charge in addition to the circumstantial. It's kind of the holdover because I think it's consistent with what I told them initially in distinguishing the burdens of proof in a civil trial versus a criminal charge. I simply said if the circumstances proved leads you to believe there's a suspicion of guilt or that he's probably guilty, that's not enough. It has to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So I add that as well as sort of a progression of burdens.
And I think Your Honor did say also likely guilty.
Yeah. Okay? You bet. All right, let's take about 5 minutes and is that enough?
Yeah, just get my face straight.
Yep, no problem. You can handle it, I know. I got all the confidence in the world. Too much pomp and circumstance.
This will be last. Whatever. Two more of them.
Hey, Nancy.
What's your essential?
Yeah, just when you do stuff right there. You're on the screen, it's doing that.
Like this way.
I'll stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll let you.
Judge,
Sir?
now address the court.
Yeah.
I just spoke with Ms. Lysack. Ordinarily, when she's cross or direct examining a witness and she's using stuff up here, I would come around so I can see it. And I told her I don't want this being a closing argument to distract her that way. She said she has no problem if I stay out of her way, that if I go back through here and get back where I can see the
Oh,
chart.
I have no problem.
I just wanted.
Both, y'all entitled, y'all got to do your jobs, and I understand that. So that's, as long as you show respect, and y'all done nothing but shown professionalism and respect, so I have no problem. Thank you. Are we ready?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
John.
Very well, let's bring in our jury. Monday, we don't visit. Oh, yeah, there's Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're now moving into the closing argument portion of this process, when the attorneys will have that chance to address. Please give them your attention, and I know that you will. Solicitor, you may
Thank you,
proceed.
Judge.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today for a kidnapping case against Sidney Moorer. Now, what I'm going to tell you first is this is a circumstantial case. That means there's nothing but circumstantial evidence. Now, we make decisions on circumstantial evidence every day. Just last week, on my porch, I came out, and I've got an enclosed porch. I keep the door cracked so I can let my dogs in and out. I walk out, dog food is everywhere, everything is thrown about. So the first question I have is, who did this? When I went to bed last night, everything was organized straight. And then I wake up the next morning, everything is in disarray. So of course I go to my neighbor and I say, if you don't mind, I'd like to borrow a deer camera from you. I want to put it up on my porch, see what's going on at night. So I put the camera up. It only faces the door, so I can catch who's going in and out of my porch. I put it up around 9 o'clock. That night, I'm hanging around, waiting. I get up about 12 o'clock before I know I'm going to go to sleep. I walk out there. Sure enough, again, all the dog food turned over, everything in disarray. So I take the deer camera, I look at it. What do I see? I see a possum come in. At that time, nobody else, nothing else, I've just left. The possum comes in. About 3 or 4 minutes passes. The possum goes back out. Nothing else on the camera. And when I come out at 12 o'clock, everything is strode about, dog food, everything else. Am I sitting there wondering now at this point, who is coming in on the porch? Who's eating the dog food? Who's rumbling around on the porch? Now, I never see the possum touch the dog food. All I see him do is come in the door, stay around a few minutes, and leave. And I know when I come back out there, everything is in disarray. I'm not sitting there wondering what happened. Circumstantial evidence is just that. It's like when you wake up in the morning and there's water on the ground, there's water on your car, and there's water on the road. Is anybody wondering if it rained last night? No, you didn't see it and you didn't hear it, but ask yourself, are you firmly convinced it rained last night? It's the only thing that makes sense. So don't get caught up on the fact that this is a circumstantial case. We make decisions based on circumstantial evidence every day. And I'm going to tell you, this case has better evidence than if we had an eyewitness. If we had an eyewitness up here, everybody would be wondering, is that really what they saw in the dark? Is this person biased? Are they confused? Can they remember what they saw at 2:30 in the morning or 3:30 in the morning? Then it would be a credibility issue. We don't have any credibility issues in this case. All we have is hard facts, records, and data. We know where that victim was, not from an eyewitness, but because we have phone records and Google coordinates of everywhere she was that early morning of the 18th. Better than an eyewitness. We don't have to wonder, did they really see that? Is this person biased? No, we know. Google doesn't know Heather Elvis. All they're doing is handing over the location of her phone that night. Now, the truck going down there, we don't have to worry, did anybody see what they thought they saw at 3:30 in the morning? We don't have to worry about that because it was caught on camera. Better than eyewitness, caught on camera. And we don't have to worry. You saw a lot of testimony up here. Well, I think it was around 1:30 I dropped her off. I think it was around 2 o'clock. Nobody's looking identically at their watch. We don't have to worry about that. The camera reads this truck went down there at this time. We don't have to rely on an eyewitness remembering anything or looking at their watch. We have the camera footage showing the truck going down there. This is circumstantial case, but this is the best evidence anybody can ask for. It's hard facts, hard records, nothing to be questioned. Now, why are we here? That's the most important thing. We've been here all week. Why are we here? We are here because Heather Elvis, a 20-year-old young woman, is not here. That's why we're here. Sometimes we forget because we see the defendant every day. You see me every day. So we forget the reason we're here is because there's somebody else that isn't here. That's why we're here. So don't forget that. This is not only Sidney Moore's day, this is Heather Elvis's day. Nobody has seen or heard from that woman since December 18th at 3:41. That's why we're here, because she's not here. Now, the question is, why isn't she here? What happened to this 20-year-old young woman? I'm here to tell you, that woman was kidnapped. She did not vanish voluntarily. This is a woman who was taken way too early. This is a woman who has not even lived life yet. When you hear Judge Dennis in the beginning talk about life experiences, this is a woman that had not even begun to have life experiences. You are talking about a 20-year-old woman who's never been married, never had kids, never owned her own home, never even got off the ground good. This is a woman that has not vanished. This is a woman that has been taken, with still a lot of life to live. This woman was active on this phone all the time. Look at her phone records. When we were breezing through those phone records, we're talking about a woman that's texting and calling 1,000 entries a month. She's all over that phone, like most 20-year-old girls. You're talking about a woman with a roommate, palling around, having a good time, just got her a new job. Exciting things on the brink for her. So don't question why we're here. This woman was taken and kidnapped against her will. She had a life here that she was living. She was getting ready to start a new job. She had a roommate, and she was going on a first date. She didn't want to go anywhere. Things were turning out good for her. So don't wonder if she's run off. She hasn't. She has vanished and been taken against her will. Her family is still here. Bree was still here. Her date was still here. You look at pictures of her apartment, her stuff is still here. This was a woman that was taken. That's why we're here, because she was kidnapped. Now the question is, who did it? Who did it? Well, when the officer was looking for her, before we even knew this was a kidnapping case, before we even knew it was a kidnapping case, they went to Tilted Kilt. It's the woman here. Is she scheduled to work tomorrow? We just want to see if she shows up for work. Right off the bat, who did the manager mention? Right off the bat, where was it led? Sidney Moorer. Why? Why Sidney? Because they had a relationship together. There was a connection. This is not some random man that didn't know her. This is not a stranger. This is a man, when you look at the phone records, had been involved with her for months, intensely involved with her. You're talking 400 or 500 text calls in the course of a month. Then it ends. And the problem is, relationships end all the time. But the snag with this case was the pregnancy. She starts gaining weight. She starts taking pregnancy tests. Then the idea of this clean cut is no longer available. That is no longer a possibility. This idea of I'm breaking it off and I'm going back to my family, you go back to your life, that's no longer available. That's not an option. It's not an option. So there was a snag. It couldn't be that clean cut. There had to be continuous contact for possibly the next 18 years, or really, if we're honest, the rest of your life. So it wasn't as clean as Sidney Moorer wanted it to be. It wasn't as easy as to brush this little 20-year-old girl off like he wanted it to be. Now, when I talk about this pregnancy, the number one question is, we know it was on her mind. No doubt about it. She took a pregnancy test. She's gaining weight. even to her friend Dennis Hart in November, I'm gaining all this weight. Everybody sees it. So the question is, we know it's on her mind. Is it on his mind? Is it on his mind? That's the question. Well, what we know is on 1:12 a.m. on December 18th. Now, he had been on this trip. We know that from Celebrate. That he had gone, took some pictures, he was out of town, he had gone cross country. And even Mr. Truslow asked some questions about weren't they gone on vacation. They were gone on vacation. You can look at the Celebrate report. The last place he hits for images is on the 11th of December. He's down in Georgia. Down in Georgia. He's been gone 3 weeks at least with his family on vacation. 3 weeks, been gone. He ain't even back in Horry County good and unpacked before he's up at the Walmart at 1:12 in the middle of the night buying a pregnancy test. Not even, he ain't even been in town over a week. Literally, the man is in Georgia on the 11th of the month. He hadn't even got turned around good before he's up here at the Walmart buying a pregnancy test. Can't even get settled into town. Can't even be worrying about Christmas time for his 3 kids. He won't up here buying toys. He won't up here buying presents. It's only about 6 days from Christmas. All he could study was getting this pregnancy test. Not at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Not at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. No. In the middle of the night when it's dark and nobody else is around. That's what's on his mind. Buying a pregnancy test. Now, how else do we know who the pregnancy test is for? Because that would be a question. What's going on that night? Who is the test for? Well, we know he buys the test around 1:19. That's from the receipt. That'll go back with you. You can look at the video. He is departing the Walmart in Myrtle Beach at 1:21 a.m. 1:21 a.m. is when he's backing out of the parking lot. Now, at 1:35, he's already up at that payphone, burning it up to call who? Heather Elvis. Now, when I first started this case, that was important. But you don't really appreciate it until you realize this man walked straight out from buying this pregnancy test in the Myrtle Beach Walmart and takes a beeline, because it's not long enough to go anywhere else. He goes straight from that Walmart, bam, right to the payphone. Right to the payphone to call her. So what's on his mind? In the middle of the night, buying a pregnancy test, calling Heather Elvis. He didn't even have time to think between the Walmart and the payphone. It would take you that long just to get from Walmart to the payphone. That's all he can study in the middle of the night is getting that pregnancy test and going straight to call her. No stops, nothing else. Bam, beeline to that phone. Now, when he gets out of the car, you know, Mr. Truslow has alluded to all these things in the case. But if you watch that video, when he gets out of the car, he locks the door. Walks in, gets it, beep, beep. You'll see the lights, unlocks it again. There is not one shred of evidence in that video that anybody else is in that car. It is December, which means it ain't warm outside. And he leaves that car, locks it. You see the light go off, goes into Walmart, comes back, deep, deep, unlocks the door. You never see anybody open the door. You never see the car keep running. There is no evidence that anybody is in that car but him. When my dad comes in town, the first thing I do when I go in anywhere, I don't even think about it. The keys stay with him. you're in the car, if something happens, if you want to turn the air on, whatever, the car is left for you. Here are the keys for whatever may unfold. I don't get out of the car and lock him in the car and come back out and unlock the door again. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Now, I can tell you this much. If somebody I was dating did that, you'd see them jiggling on that doorknob trying to get in that car, because I'd be pretty upset. But you don't see any evidence that anybody is in that car. And then he drives to the payphone. Now that payphone video, when you watched it, what I like about it is he never drives his car up to the payphone. Never drives his car up. So it's obvious he don't want his truck to be seen anywhere near that payphone. So he parks the truck somewhere else. Now where he parks it, I don't know. But he doesn't park it near that payphone. It's not like he drives up, gets out, and uses the payphone. So you know already he's up to no good. He's calling from a payphone, and he won't drive his truck up to the payphone so it can be seen. He doesn't want anybody to see that truck up at that payphone. And he's using a payphone at 1:30 a.m. That right there tells you he's up to no good. If anybody is wondering, when a 40-year-old man is calling a 20-year-old girl in the middle of the night from a payphone, something bad is about to happen. There are some bad intentions there. You got a cell phone, use it. But he doesn't even want that truck seen on that video. That's what gets me. And you see him in the dark of night come through them bushes and use the payphone. He's not going to the store. It is obvious he has rolled up there just for that payphone. Now, I don't know how he found that particular one, but he did. You see him use it, and then bam, he goes right back out into the darkness towards those bushes again. Creeping through the night. Creeping through the night. Now, after he buys that Walmart test, or after he uses the phone, which we know he calls Heather Elvis. We know he calls Heather Elvis. Now, if you're wondering if he's up to no good by the fact he's using a payphone in the middle of the night to call a 20-year-old girl, it should be cleared up by the fact he lied to the police about it. So he's already done it, and now he's lied about it. He tells Kenneth Canterbury, no, she called me. She called me. He gets in there with John Martin. No, I ain't called her from no other phone. Go back and listen to that testimony. In fact, he told John Martin, they still make payphones? What? They still make payphones? Go back and listen to it. And then John tells him, yes, yeah, they do, boss man. And this one's got video surveillance on it. And then once he hears that, oh yeah, I did call her. Damn, yeah, I called her. Why drive up to it if you don't have bad intentions and not park your car? And why lie to it to the police? He knows the woman is missing. A 20-year-old woman is missing. You ought to be the first one to say, look, yes, I talked to her from a payphone. We were in a relationship. Something was going on. Yeah, it wasn't a good idea, but she's missing. I want to do everything I can to help. No, he's sneaking around, calling from payphones, and then lying about it to the police. Lying about it. So you know he is up to no good. Now the number one question next is, where does he go? Where does he go? He's got the pregnancy test. Where does he go? He's bought the pregnancy test. He's called the woman. Where does he go? We know where she goes. We know then she starts stirring around. And why is she stirring around? Because he called her and said, I've left my wife. I want to see you. So that gets her stirring around. And in the beginning, she's kind of hesitant. I don't know. I'm going to sleep on her. But like every young woman, I think about this myself when Bree first told me what had happened that night. She was mad at him. She was trying to move on with her life. For some reason, even I do it, as mad as you get, in 5 minutes you have convinced yourself that he wants to be with me and that he loves me and it's me he's thinking about. And before you knew it, she had it worked around with her mind, I'm gonna meet him. This is what I've wanted the whole time. Yes, I was upset, but she got to thinking about it and said, you know what, I'm gonna meet him. At the time, I'm sure she didn't realize the danger in it. So she starts thinking, I'm gonna go ahead and meet him. And you see her stirring around. You see her driving the Longbeards. And how do we know it's him she's there to meet? Because she's calling this payphone back like crazy. She calls this payphone back 9-10 times. So we know who she's trying to get in touch with. But where is he? That would be the question I have, and I still have it. Where was he? And we don't know. Look at his Celebrate. He's using that phone right up to about 1:15. And then nothing on the phone. No phone calls. And then, you see it turns back on at 3:02 a.m. See, we follow phones through tower data, and if they're available, Google coordinates. There was no Google coordinates for his phone. So how do we follow people around? We wait for them to use the phone, and we see which tower they ping off of. I would love to know where he was. But we don't know, because ironically, he's using the phone up to 1:15, and then look at the Celebrate report. No phone usage. None at all. No way to know where he is when she's moving around. And then bam, at 3:02, the phone pops back on. Powering event pops back on. So while she's moving around, we don't know where he is. Strikingly strange. Strikingly strange. All of a sudden, he ain't got nothing to say and nobody to call. And she's calling back that payphone. But you know, she's heard this good news. I've left my wife. So she feels like, I'm going to call him. I'm going to call him. So she finally calls his phone at 3:17. He's already talked to her for 5 minutes. She finally calls at about 3:17, talks to him again for 4 minutes. 4 minutes. We know she's talked to him again. We know from his phone records and from hers that they talked for over 4 minutes. And we know from Erin Edens, that phone expert, when she talked to him, she was still in her apartment. Right after that conversation, go back and look at either Erin's testimony or anything he presented. Right after that conversation, she hangs up. She goes straight to Peachtree Landing. Straight to Peachtree Landing. There is a million places. Should look at this map. First, now, Mr. Elvis lives right over here. Right over here. This is where she was at. You can go back and listen to any testimony you want to. This is where she was at when she was talking on the phone at 3:17. There is a million places between here, look at all this, roads, Forest Brook Road, there's Carolina Bay, all the way to Peachtree Landing. This has got to be one of the darkest holes in Horry County. There was no street light, one way in, one way out, and a swamp. That's where she went. She didn't go to a gas station. She didn't go to a park. She didn't even go to the first Peachtree Landing. That's what got me. When I first got called out on this thing, I went to that landing. I didn't even know about this landing. So you know, before they hung up the phone, there had to be a meeting of the minds. This is not somewhere you just randomly show up to at 3:30 something in the morning. She was down there at 3:36 a.m. in the middle of the night. I promise you it's pitch black. And I brought those pictures in here to show the jury. We didn't have any from that night, but just how dark it is out there. It is a dark hole. It's where she went to at 3:36 a.m. in the morning. Nobody is just randomly driving across town in the middle of the night to Peachtree Lane just to do it. There was a clear meeting of the minds after that 4-minute conversation where they were meeting. Now, ironically, if you notice, there's quite a bit of distance from her house to this landing. And I asked Mr. Witt from T-Mobile, nice guy, has she ever hit off that tower before? No, never. Her phone had never hit off that tower before. So you know now that at 3:30 in the morning, she has left the safety of her home only after talking to this man. Only after then, she left the safety of her home and went to the darkest hole in Horry County, a place that we know she's not familiar with because her phone had never pinged at that landing before. So what does that tell you? That tells you, at this point, he has now got her to a dark place where nobody's around, that she's not familiar with. She might have been there before, but she's not familiar with it. Her phone had never pinged there before. So we know she is not super familiar with that area. So now he's got her in a dark area, in an area she's not that familiar with. And he's already got the advantage of the fact the woman is only 20 years old. So now you've got a little girl, 20 years old, down there at a landing in the middle of the night with nobody else around. And ironically, it's right up the road from where he lives. Right up the road from where he lives. And not only right up the road, but the road he took, 814 and Mill Pond, to get there. I asked for everybody to go out there because you appreciate what a back road this is. There's no traffic. It's dark at night. Nobody's out. This is not a main road. So now he's got her down there at a dark place where he can get to, and he thinks nobody's going to see him. Why? Because this 814 is not a major highway. Mill Pond is not a major highway. So he never has to get on a main road for, again, anybody to see that truck moving around. He didn't want it seen at the payphone, and he didn't want to see it here. So he had it now where he could get to her, where he thought, and not be seen. He never had to get on a major highway, never had to stop at a stoplight, never had to pass the gas station, nothing. So now he thinks, I got her down there, and I've got a way to get to her, and nobody's going to see me. They never imagined that there was a camera on 814. The police did. And in fact, we would have never recovered it but for this lady calling the police. Now, she was upset. She's somebody that does not come in the courtroom every day. She's the one that called and said, look, I heard on the news that something happened at Peachtree Landing and the suspects live on the other end of the road. I want you to come get this camera because they had to have rode past here to get there. So go on, come get my camera. And sure enough, there's the truck on the camera. See, we had the one at DNS Siteworks. This one. But that's only part of the puzzle. The other part came when we got this surveillance footage. Then we knew it was somebody that knew those roads, and it was somebody that was close to 814. And who was that? Sidney Moorer. How many people are riding down 814 at 3:30 in the morning? How many people are riding down Mill Pond at 3:30 in the morning? Not very many. Not very many. And what's so telling is, A, that's his truck. rest your mind at ease. Grant Fredericks teaches, as he told you, at the FBI on just what he came in here and talked about. That is that man's truck. And he audited, you can go back and re-listen to it, like 14,000 trucks. Mr. Truslow came up here, how about 5 minutes before? How about 5 minutes after? I got one better than that. How about 3 or 4 weeks after? You seen anything like that? Nope, nope. I saw his truck one time, Mr. Fredericks told you. One time. And that was on December 18th at 3-something in the morning going down there and 3:46 coming back. He audited something like 8,000 vehicles, if not more, that were down that road. 7,000 or 8,000. He only saw one match, and it was Sidney Moore's car going down there. So you know that's his truck going down there. There's not a doubt about it. 814, Mill Pond, same truck. And the thing about it is, what is so disturbing is that he gets off the phone with her and starts heading straight to the landing. Now, and at that time, it's bad enough. You know there's some bad intention. He's out running around in the middle of the night. He's got kids, a wife. Be at home. That's where you should be. Be at home. But he's running around, got this 20-year-old girl running around in the middle of the night. But all is well on his way down to the landing. How do you know? He strikes out. He's heading down there. He strikes out. He's heading down there. It looks 3:39 is when he's passing by DNS Site Works. And all is well at that time for Heather Elvis, because at 3:39 she's on her phone. So when we know on his way down there, this little girl is still all is well, and she's on that phone. Nothing's happened. She's still going at it. Now, who is she calling? She's not calling some random person. As soon as she gets down there, she's calling Sidney Moore. I'm sure she was like, where are you? It's dark as hell out here. See, she didn't suspect trouble. She suspected a familiar face. She was excited. She was calling him, eager, ready to see him. As soon as she gets down there at 3:38, outgoing, 385-3175. She can't get him. Again, 385-3175, 385-3175, 385, calling. She's excited. She wants to see him. All is well. She doesn't know that danger is amongst her. She doesn't know that she's being led down a dark hole. She's calling, excited. She expects nothing wrong. And why would she? He's talked to her now for 10 minutes and told her he's leaving his wife. Why would she expect trouble? All is well for her when he goes down to the landing. She's still alive. She's still got her phone. She's still got her car. She's excited. The disturbing part is he's at Mill Pond at 3:39. When we went down there, the bus turned around. You may have seen the sign on the right, Peachtree Landing, to the right. So when you get to that stop sign and you take a right, it's maybe a half a mile down there and you're at the landing. Close enough where the sign is right there, Peachtree Landing. All is well when he's on his way down there. But we know something bad happens, because something happens at 3:41 and 3:42 that's never happened before. And that's her phone can't talk to the tower, can't get GPS data, it can't get anything. Absolutely no way for her to contact anybody. So you know something bad has happened. Her phone dies at 3:42. It's trying to look for signal. It's trying to get something, and it can't. Soon as the time he gets down there, it goes bad that quick. That quick. And whatever happens, happens And how do we know that? Because when he's on his way back, her phone is already dead. Already dead. It makes its last signal at 3:42. So the time he gets down there, something, there's no doubt about it, horrific happens. Her phone loses all power, all ability to make a phone call, receive a phone call. It's dead. So we know something has happened. We know this woman has been taken. She has no way to call 911. She has no way for anybody to call her. She has lost her lifeline. And this is not a blink of when a phone loses power. This woman has not been heard from since 3:42, or seen or been able to receive a phone call since 3:42. After that, when he's on his way back, that phone is dead and there's no sign of her. When the police roll up at 4 o'clock, that woman has already been taken. Absolutely no sign of her. Now, how do we know that it was Sidney Moorer she was meeting? Because that's who she talked to. How do we know he got in that truck and went down there? Because he was the only one that ever drove that truck. He was the only one in that truck that night. But the most telling evidence, there's not one broken glass, there's not one shred of evidence that there was a struggle. And not only was there not a struggle, but she had her keys and phone and her license in the car. This was a woman that was expecting to come back to that car, to those driver's license. This is a woman like we do every day. Grab your keys, grab your phone, shut the door, lock the door, and get in the car with whoever you're riding with. She saw a familiar face. She had no idea danger was there. She had no idea this person that she was excited to see had evil intentions. See, it was never a fair matchup. She was 20, no life experiences, and she was tangoing with a 40-year-old man that had a lot of life experience. So it was never an even match. She had no idea what was coming. She grabbed them keys, grabbed that phone, because we never found her. The door's locked, the windows are rolled up. In my mind, when I think about it, I picture like every young girl, even myself, you excited, you grab your stuff, you shut the door, you lock your door, and you jump in with somebody you think is a friendly face. And in fact, her car was parked facing the water, which meant her back was to the road. She never expected anything. She was completely vulnerable. No sign of a struggle. Her car was operable. They got into it and drove it back to her dad's house the next day. If she had seen an unfriendly face or someone she was fearful of, she would have cranked that car up and took off, or she would have called on that phone. She, at that time, had a way out. It wasn't until she got out of that car, that safe place, and got into the car with Sidney Moorer, is when this happened. And on his way back, not another phone call is made. Just between 1:13 and 3:41, you got, let's see, 16 phone calls. 16 phone calls that night. And I mean, burning it up. Burning it up from 1:35 to 3:41, just burning the phone up, burning it up. And after she comes in contact with him, bam, never again. The phone dies, not another phone call made. When he's heading back, that phone is dead. Not another phone call is made. She was down there to meet a familiar face. She was down there thinking he had good intentions. That's what makes this situation ugly. It's not a stranger. It's not a stranger. She reached out and was tricked by a 40-year-old man that had bad intentions. He knew just what to say to get that little girl moving around. He had been in a long relationship with her. He knew how she felt. He knew just what to say to get her out of that house and moving towards him. I've left my wife. I want to be with you. I miss you. Those are the words that got her moving around. She was safe. Everything was fine. Everything was fine for her. When they broke up, she moved on. I'm sure it was tough in the beginning, but by December she had another job. She was going on another date. Life was moving on. Life was moving on. This man was not going to let that happen. When you look at this timeline of when he contacts her that night, it is nothing short of a countdown from 1:12 until 3:41 when he takes her. It is nothing but a countdown. From the first time he contacts her, time is ticking until that phone ends. Everything he did was thought out and planned in a way to take this young woman. He was the only one having contact. It is so disturbing to sit up here and hear these allegations. How about Jeremy? How about Dennis Hart? How about John Smith? How about my neighbor down the road? It's disturbing. Nobody knew where she was but Sidney Moorer. Mr. Truslow got up here in his opening and told you when, after Martin told you about, it's kind of like throwing a rock in the water, the ripples. You know something's happened because you see the ripples and you see the person on the bank wiping their hands off. Mr. Truslow says, well, what if there's 5 or 6 people on the bank? The problem is there ain't 5 or 6. There's one. There's one. Sidney Moorer. There is not one shred of evidence that points to anybody else. You can look at the phone records. The woman was home. She had ended the date. Nothing went bad until he was creeping around in the middle of the night. All he could study, all was on his mind was not his wife, not his kids, but in the middle of the night, luring this young woman out from a payphone. That's how you know he has bad intentions. That's how you know. Nobody else. Who called her from a payphone? Who else called her from a payphone? Nobody. Nobody else called her from the payphone. Who did she talk to before she went to the landing? Nobody. Nobody. She was fearful of Tammy Moorer. There's no doubt about it. I asked her, are you fearful? Yeah. Mr. Truslow asked her, are you fearful? Yes. She was not about to drive across town in the middle of the night and go to Peachtree Landing to meet Tammy Moorer. There's no way it happened. There's no way it happened. Nobody else knew where that woman was but the same man that she had been trying to get in touch with and talking to all night long, Sidney Moorer. Sidney Moorer. She got down there at 3:37. His car got down there shortly after. It's already passing. When she's down there, he's already on his way. He's already in hot pursuit. She's down there at 3:37. At 3:39, he's right there at Mill Pond Road, right there on her. And by 4 o'clock, when that cop comes, she's gone. She's gone. There's nobody else. Nobody else knew where she was. Nobody else was talking to her. Nobody else was creeping around in the middle of the night buying pregnancy tests. and getting out on the highway to follow this young woman around. Nobody but Sidney Moorer. That landing is not a high traffic area. That cop said, I never saw anybody else down there that night. I never saw anybody walking on the road. When I got down there, she was already gone. There's nobody else. Nobody but Sidney Moorer. Why? Over nothing. Over nothing. Because it was not a clean break. He couldn't get rid of her. This woman might be pregnant. I want to go back to my family. I don't want this. And you know, when I was sitting here listening to the questions that Mr. Treslow was asking, and I'm sure you heard them, and I don't know if they clicked with anybody else the way they did me. Well, didn't she not get along with her family? Yeah, she didn't. Didn't she sleep in her car a few nights? Yeah, she did. Wasn't she kind of a rebel doing her own thing? Yes, she was. She slept in her car a few nights, which he knew. Sidney Moorer knew that. Let's get real. He knew she was 20 years old. He knew she was transient. He knew all these things that Mr. Treslow was bringing out. So, wouldn't that make for an easy victim? Wouldn't that make for an easy victim? A woman that you know is young, that you know doesn't get along with her family, so she gets like I do, to be honest, go months, weeks without talking to them, mad, don't have anything to say over whatever reason. This is that woman. She couldn't get along with her family. She was 20 years old, trying to do her own thing, transient. So he thought, nobody's even going to miss this woman. She's an easy victim. She sleeps in her car 4 or 5 days. She's a waitress at the Tilted Kilt. Got no real connections. So I'm sure he thought this woman was the easy victim. Nobody's even going to care. They're going to go down there. Her car's going to be down there. They'll look for a couple days, and that'll be it. And I'll get what I want. I'll go on my life just like I always wanted to. Nobody will care. It's unfortunate. It is so unfortunate. It is so unfortunate that more times than not, that is the woman. That is the woman that is singled out. The woman that doesn't have a lot of ties. The woman that is transient. The woman that is weak. 20-year-old waitress, no connections. And when Danny Furr called him, that's when it dawned on me. When Danny Furr called and said, hey, it's Corporal Furr here. Is this Sidney Moorer? Hey, Sidney, you there? Yeah. I am sure he was not expecting that call that soon in time. And I am sure he was not expecting the police to pick up on him that soon in time. I'm sure he was sitting over there. Yeah, I'm here. Surprise, it's the police. Surprise, this woman was not as easy as a victim as you so easily thought she was. Now, we talked a lot about surveillance footage of him going down there. But see, that was not the best surveillance footage. The best surveillance footage, have you got that picture of this Terry? See, we caught surveillance footage at 814 and Mill Pine. But see, we didn't get the best surveillance footage. There was better surveillance footage. And how do you know? Because we know there was footage at his house. We know there were cameras up at his house. The police saw them on 12/20. The police saw them, and then when Mr. Treslow wanted to get up here and act like Pete was a liar, you didn't see no cameras. Where's the picture? Well, we got one better for you than that. The little boy that stays in the house, guess what? Guess what, boss man? He saw the cameras too. Jacob Melton got up here and told you, I've been spending the night at that house for a while, and there were 3 cameras outside and there was 1 inside. That's the best footage. That's the $1 million shot right there. That tells the whole story. Now, the problem, and you know, when we were looking into this case, we had heard that there were cameras out. And we knew that, well, what is the deal with these cameras? And we were talking to people here, talking to people there, and we finally got up with Jacob Melton. We know you've been in the house, you've been over there for years. Tell us about these cameras. What is the deal with them? And that's when he said, there's a monitor right there in their house showing you what's on the cameras. And we were kind of like, whoa, this is about to bust wide open right here. We're about to get a $1 million shot. So we start going through the pictures from the 20th that Peace is there to show us. Show us where this is. Show us where the monitor is. Show us where the DVR is. And by the 20th, he told us where it was. He told us where the monitor was. I go back, I'm immediately flipping through the pictures. And I can't find it. I can't find it. You heard Mr. Truslow talk about 2 different conversations. So of course, I come back. Where is this monitor? Where is it? Show it to me. I show him this picture. State's evidence number 75. He says, well, it was right here where that picture frame is. That picture frame was not there before. There was a monitor there before. Split screen, mounted to the wall, showing the driveway, showing everything at the house. That would be the $1 million shot. Where is it? And you know, honestly, creeping to the payphone, that was pretty good. Going down 814, secondary highway, we would have never caught that footage. Thank God Joyce is on Facebook. I'm not. That was pretty good. But to unmount the monitor and to put a picture frame over it, that's pretty good. That tells you I'm not even risking this crap with the phone. I'm going to delete some messages off the phone. That's what I'm going to do. But this right here, I ain't even risking it. This crap is going in the trash and nobody's ever going to find it. This, whatever was on this, was the $1 million shot. They were so worried, they won't even risk deleting what was on that DVR or doing something to the DVR. They chunked the whole system, tore that thing off the wall, and hung a picture frame up. That's how worried they were. I can only imagine what was on this surveillance camera. See, the problem was the police showed up on the 20th. So then it was, oh hell, they probably already saw the cameras. So, and that he knew, people knew the cameras were up because Jacob Melton had been in the house. So what do? They go out and buy a new system on the 21st and hook it up. This Jimmy guy that y'all met, I sent him that DVR system because we knew the stuff with the phone had been deleted. We knew the stuff on the truck was present before this girl went missing, and we knew there was information after. But there was no information when they were here in Horry County moving around. We could never get that information off the sync gem. It wasn't there. There was information before and after, none there. So I said, well, I'm going to send it off. Maybe this is the same system. Maybe they've just tried to rewrite it or delete it like everything else, and maybe we can recover it. No. Whole new system. So you can only imagine what was on this for them to get rid of it. To rip a monitor off the wall by the 20th and cover it with this photograph. You can only imagine. Now, they bought that new system. Looking for that picture from after the 20.
Yes. Celeste, is that the picture you want? Celeste, Nancy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This was taken during a search warrant. And when you look at this picture, and I want you to look at it close, I'm showing you now State's Evidence 75. The monitor was right here, and if you look close, there's a chair right there with a pillow in it. So where the monitor was, there's a picture frame, and right here there's a chair. With like a pillow or a blanket or something in it on this side, the other side of the wall, across from that picture frame. Now, this is important because by the 21st, when they've gotten the new system, the whole daggone room's changed around. Now they've got that piece of furniture and it's sitting right on top. Hey, look at this. Look what we got. The whole room's changed. That chair is gone. Now they got a piece of furniture sitting up there. Everything's changed. Once they buy this new surveillance system, then they've got a piece of furniture, a monitor, everything's changed. Now, Mr. Truslow wanted to get up here and say, well, are you sure, Jacob, that that won't, the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd? He said, well, it was probably up then. But the key was it up when the man had a white truck? Because the man had a white truck before November 8th. Yep, it was up then too. Now, Mr. Truslow wants to get up here and try to beat Mr. Melton up. Oh, you just saying this because the solicitor told you. This woman's intimidating you. Folks, I've met that kid twice. He's been hanging around this family for 3 years. He has absolutely no axe to grind. None at all. None at all. He has been hanging around their son for years. He told you he's been spending the night over there for weeks and months at a time. He has no reason to lie. All this little boy knows is when they had a white truck, it was there, and after they had a white truck, it was there. Now, I introduced Devin Souls, the guy from Beach Ford. And the only reason I did that was because this story that Mr. Truslow asked Mr. Martin about, well, didn't he call her to tell her to leave him alone? For one, it's ridiculous. Because A, the woman was moving on. She's 20, she's young, she's resilient. It's time to move on. He's the one that couldn't move on. She already had a date lined up. She already had her another job. And second of all, the last time she had contact with him was November 5th, which was back when he had a white truck. So this crap about she was leaving notes on my car. Well, for one, you were only here a week before you were burning up a payphone to get in touch with her. And for two, she wouldn't have never known that was your truck. She never knew he had a black truck. The last time they had contact, the man had a white truck. Then he went out and bought a black truck. And that's important for two reasons. A, because you know he's lying. She never left any notes on that truck. She would have never known that was his truck. So that's a lie. That's just some reason why you called from the payphone. I called her to tell her to leave me the hell alone. Because I thought it best to do that by myself and sneak up to a payphone. That makes sense. So you know he's lying about it. And the second reason why it's super important is because when that truck rolled up at Peachtree Landing, one or two things. Either he told her, I'm coming in a black truck, so she would know the vehicle. One or two things. Or two, when he rolled up, it's pitch black out there. You can't even see from here to that chair. And that's why when we took the pictures, we used a white car. Because when you use a dark one, it won't show up in the pictures. So when you look at those pictures of the cop car behind that white car was used because the black one wouldn't show up to be able to show where the car was. So it's pitch dark out there. So she wouldn't have even been able to see him but for him rolling that window down. Hey, it's me. So one or two things happened. Either he said, I'm coming in a black truck. Either that happened, or when he got down there, she didn't know that was his truck. So when he got down there, he had to have rolled that window down or done something to indicate, hey, it's me, it's all in the clear, come on. So that black truck was important. The timing of when he bought that black truck was important. Because he buys that truck and then shortly later, he's out of town for 3 weeks. And he's only in town a week before he's burning her up in the middle of the night. In a different truck that she wouldn't even recognize. So one or two things, he either told her I'm in a black truck, or when he got down there, he rolled that window down. But either way, she saw him before she got out of that car. She saw him before she got out of that car. She either saw him or he said something that would indicate what kind of truck he's in, I'm coming. Because when she got out, she had time to roll them windows up and lock that door and grab her stuff. So she knew it was him down there. And I can tell you, if it was somebody else that jumped out, you would see signs of a struggle, zero sign of a struggle. Now, I've been telling you a lot about his phone calls and him creeping around in the middle of the night and about him telling all these lies. And here is why it's important. Because kidnapping is not only about taking control. These are all the different ways you can kidnap somebody. So don't go back there and think she didn't struggle, she got into the car with him willingly. I can't even say this kidnapping. Do not believe that. That is not true. It couldn't be furthest from the truth. And this kidnapping case is such a different kind of kidnapping. Normally, kidnapping is a stranger snatching you up. Normally a sign of a struggle. This is not that kind of case. This is a more thought out case. To have kidnapping, you can have any of these, including inveigling and decoying or carrying away. Any one of these things is kidnapping. Any one of them. And I'm telling you, decoying out. This is the first one I looked at, decoying out. And I looked at it, I thought about it, I opened my Black's Law Dictionary up. It was kind of dusty. I opened it up. By the very definition, it said decoying out is to lure someone from the safety of their home for the purpose of kidnapping. That's what the definition is. To lure someone away from the safety of their home. This kidnapping had already happened when he called her from that payphone at 1:35. When he told her that lie, and we know it's a lie. The man, if you have any doubt, look over there. He's wearing his wedding band. It is obvious he was not going to leave his wife. It is obvious that was a lie to get a young girl moving around away from the safety of her home. He has not left his wife. And in fact, Mr. Treslow asked John Martin about him being interviewed with his wife. So he obviously was telling her that to get her to move around, because it is obvious it was a lie, and it was obvious he had no intentions of leaving his wife. And in fact, him not leaving his wife is what got this all started in the first place. He didn't want to leave his wife, and he didn't want to bother with her either, being over there pregnant at 20 years old. That was the problem. I'm not leaving my wife, and I can't handle this over here. So I'm going to have to do something about this problem. Soon as he lured her away and decoyed her out of that apartment, that was kidnapping. Soon as she left her residence and he decoyed her away, that was kidnapping. That's when it began, when he lured her out. These are all inveigling, is to tell something untrue, to inveigle someone, bring them to you under false pretenses. That's what he was doing that night. Once he got her away, because he couldn't do anything in that apartment complex. It's an apartment, there are 100 condos around, 100 apartments. You can't do anything there. That doesn't make sense. He had to get her away by herself. Lure her away, get her moving around by herself, somewhere she had never been in the dark of night. That 1:35 call, that was it. That was the beginning of the end for Heather Elvis. When he called her at 1:35 and she decided, you know, I was going to sleep on it, but he is calling me. He must be thinking about me. It's me he's thinking about. I'm going to go meet him. Soon as he made that phone call and convinced her to come out, that was the beginning of the end. This woman was not around 2 hours after that phone call. He calls her at 1:35. 1:35. By 3:41, her phone is dead and gone. So a little over 2 hours from this phone call was the end of her. And it is literally from this phone call down is the beginning of the end. When he decoyed her out, when he decoyed her to that landing, that was kidnapping. That was kidnapping. Now, of a person, Heather Elvis, by any means, whether it be he put his hands on her or he lured her out, by any means he has lured her out, he has lured her away. Doesn't have to be put his hands on her. Without authority of law. That kidnapping started at 1:30. And then something happened. I don't know if they didn't meet up. I don't know where he was. I don't know what happened. But the job was not finished at whatever happened, because there was another phone call at 3:17. So whatever he planned and needed to happen hadn't happened yet. So at 3:17 is when he lures her to the landing. And that's when the end happens. But you're talking, he talks to her on the phone at 3, it is literally a countdown. That first phone call, she's moving around. That second phone call, she's at the landing. And this woman is never seen from that 3:17 phone call. She gets off at 3:20, 20-some minutes later, and she's gone. Just that quick. Just that quick.
So let's wrap it up, please.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
This man is guilty of kidnapping. Don't go back there thinking it's got to be a stranger. Don't go back there thinking it's got to be he grabbed her up. This was thought out. He lured her out and he took her at 3:41. And after that, every day was spent covering it up. Deleting text messages, doing whatever happened to that truck. We were never able to recover that data, and getting rid of that camera system. That camera system was so key Out of everything we looked at, that was the one to have. Gone. Monitor, gone. Ask yourself, I'm suggesting to you, why? Why? If there's nothing bad there, if there's no bad intent there, why? Why rip it off the wall and cover up the fact it was ever there? Ironically, that boy saw it there between Thanksgiving and Christmas. They were out of town on the 12th, so that means he saw it there between the 12th and Christmas. And all of a sudden, this woman is missing on the 18th, and they're out buying another one, and it's on the 21st. This one's gone on the 20th. Why? What does that tell you? That was the footage. Now, you heard testimony from Erin about her route that night. You heard testimony from Grant Fredericks about the truck going down there. But the key to all of this is the fact her car is down there and his truck is going down there. It's the meeting of the minds. So we were able to time her route from her phone records. Better than a witness. You can't get any better than Google. We were able to time his route from the video surveillance. I had Grant match those two up for the video so everyone can see where she is that night, in the middle of the night, between 3:17 and the time her phone goes dead, and where Sidney Moorer is. Your Honor, this time I'm going to ask to let the jury view that presentation.
No, ma'am. Thank you. Not for closing argument. Thank you very much.
Ma'am?
No. Celeste, you've been arguing over an hour, and it's been somewhat repetitive in some parts, so thank you very much.
I'm going to ask you to go back there and look at everything. Look at everything. The timing, who she talked to, all of it. And I'm going to ask you to find him guilty of kidnapping. Everything points to him. And that woman is no longer around. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Celeste. Is there anything break? Very well, let you go to your jury room. Do not begin your deliberations. Don't discuss the case. We'll be with you in about 10 minutes. Thank you. All right, we'll be at ease for about 5 minutes. Thank you.